The official declaration was delivered with bureaucratic precision. High Conclave Chancellor Vorthak stood before the assembled species and read from the Galactic Registry of Sentient Civilizations. As of Stardate 4847.3, the human species of Sol System, Earth territory, has been officially classified as extinct. The last verified human settlement ceased transmitting at 0347 hours, UTC, 47 days ago. All human military assets have been destroyed. All human civilian infrastructure has been demolished. The territory formerly occupied by humanity is now designated as uninhabited salvage space, available for resource extraction and territorial claiming by any Conclave-affiliated species. Vorthak looked up from the document. Humanity is no longer a factor in galactic civilization. They have been erased from the registry. This session is closed. The announcement was met with silence, then scattered applause from various species who had benefited from humanity's destruction. The coalition powers that had conducted the extinction campaign felt satisfaction. The species that had competed with humanity for resources felt relief. The Conclave felt vindicated in its decision to withdraw protection from a species it had deemed too unstable to maintain. The recording was archived. The documentation was filed. The entry in the Galactic Registry was sealed with the official extinction designation. Humanity, after nearly 1,000 years of galactic participation, had been recorded as extinct. It was, by all official measures, complete. It was, by every military assessment, irreversible. It was, in every meaningful way, the end. 3,000 light-years away, in a region of space that the Conclave had surveyed and deemed strategically insignificant, 750,000 human warships powered up their main engines simultaneously. The hidden Armada, the decision to hide humanity's fleet, had been made 50 years ago, during the last stable period of galactic politics. Commander Marcus Okafor, one of humanity's most strategic military minds, had proposed something radical to the Earth Council. What if humanity prepared for extinction by building a defense force so vast and so hidden that it could not be detected by any galactic surveillance system? The proposal had been rejected initially. The cost was prohibitive. The resource requirements were unsustainable. The political risk of maintaining such secrecy was unacceptable. But Okafor had persisted. Over the course of 30 years, he had convinced the Earth Council that preparation was essential. The galaxy was becoming more hostile. The Conclave's protection was becoming less reliable. Species that had threatened humanity in the past were building military capabilities that dwarfed human forces. Humanity needed a backup plan. What emerged from Okafor's vision was the Exodus fleet. Not a fleet designed for conquest. Not a fleet built to expand human territory. A fleet built for a single purpose: to emerge and defend humanity if extinction became imminent. 750,000 warships. Not small vessels. Not support craft. Capital-class warships, each capable of independent combat operations. Armed with the most advanced weapons systems humanity could manufacture. Crewed by volunteers who understood they would likely never return to Earth. The fleet had been assembled in secret in a region of space so remote that galactic surveys classified it as empty. It had been supplied through a complex network of hidden supply stations. It had been maintained by a dedicated force of 12 million military personnel who had sacrificed normal existence to maintain the fleet's readiness. And it had waited. Waited for the day when humanity's political status deteriorated to the point where extinction became possible. That day had come. The extinction campaign, the coalition assault on human space, had been methodical and complete. The first wave had destroyed the human space fleet, numbering only 2,000 ships. The second wave had bombarded the major human settlements, eliminating defensive infrastructure. The third wave had conducted planetary strikes against the major human colony worlds. Within 6 weeks, human resistance had effectively ceased. The coalition had achieved in 42 days what had seemed impossible just months earlier: the complete military elimination of the human species. But there was something the coalition did not know. The human spacefleet that they had destroyed, the settlements they had bombarded, the defensive infrastructure they had demolished, none of it had been the totality of human military capability. It had all been an acceptable loss. Because the Exodus fleet, hidden 3,000 light-years away, had remained undetected. When the official extinction declaration was filed with the Galactic Registry, Commander Okafor was monitoring the announcement in the command center of the Exodus fleet's flagship, the Pathfinder. He waited for the formal extinction declaration to complete its archival process. Then he gave the order that would reshape the galaxy. All ships, initiate primary drive sequence. We are going home. The Exodus fleet did not emerge at Earth. That would have drawn immediate attention. The Coalition fleet was still in position around human space, consolidating control. Attempting to reinforce Earth would result in the destruction of the Exodus fleet before it could mount an effective defense. Instead, the fleet emerged at strategic locations throughout the galaxy. 750,000 warships appeared simultaneously across 47 major star systems. They did not attack immediately. They did not broadcast demands. They simply powered up their main weapons systems and activated their transmitters. The message was broadcast in every language, every frequency, every method of communication in the galaxy. This is the Exodus fleet, representing the human species. We were never extinct. We have simply been hidden. We are now revealing ourselves. And we are retrieving what was stolen from us. The message repeated across every channel. The galactic response was instantaneous and chaotic. The Revelation High Warden Orth received the transmission in his private chamber and sat in stunned silence for approximately 3 minutes before responding. 750,000 warships. The entire human space fleet that the Coalition had destroyed consisted of approximately 2,000 ships. The Exodus fleet was 375 times larger than the entire human military force that was supposed to have been eliminated. Orth activated the war room and demanded immediate verification of the transmission. The response came back confirmed. The Exodus fleet was real. The ships existed. The weapons systems were active. The threat was genuine. How is this possible? Orth demanded. How could humanity hide 750,000 warships without detection? His military strategist, a being named Kareth who had specialized in human military doctrine for decades, responded with reluctant admiration. They hid them in a region of space that our surveys classified as empty. They maintained operational security so strict that no signal, no energy emission, nothing escaped that region. They waited until extinction was declared, ensuring that the Conclave would not maintain active surveillance of human space. And then they emerged. This is an act of war, another advisor said quickly. The Exodus fleet is attacking Coalition positions. Negative, Kareth replied. They are not attacking. They are assuming defensive positions. They are bracketing Coalition forces. But they have not fired a single shot. Orth understood what was occurring. Humanity was not attacking the Coalition. Humanity was preventing the Coalition from attacking them. The Exodus fleet was not an invasion force. It was a defensive force that had emerged to prevent the completion of humanity's extinction. Open a communication channel to the Exodus fleet, Orth ordered. I want to speak with whoever is commanding that force. The conversation Commander Okafor appeared on Orth's personal display, his face calm despite the cosmic scale conflict that was about to unfold. High Warden Orth, Okafor began. I am Commander Marcus Okafor, Fleet Admiral of the Exodus Fleet. I am transmitting this message to inform you that the human species is not extinct. We have emerged to defend our territory and our people. You are committing an act of war against the Coalition, Orth replied carefully. You understand that the Conclave will be forced to respond with overwhelming force? I understand that the Conclave has already abandoned humanity, Okafor replied. You declared us extinct without verification. You allowed the Coalition to conduct what amounts to genocide. You did nothing to protect a member species from extinction. Orth felt the accusation strike home because it was true. The Conclave believed you were extinct, Orth said. We operated based on available information. Information that you never verified, Okafor replied sharply. You filed the extinction declaration before human forces were fully eliminated. You sealed the registry before confirming total civilian casualty. You did not investigate. You did not question. You simply accepted the Coalition's assertion and moved forward. Orth could not dispute this. What do you intend to do, Commander? Orth asked. The coalition fleet in human space still numbers over 300 capital ships. Even with 750,000 warships, a sustained engagement will result in enormous casualties. I intend to do what should have been done from the beginning, Okafor replied. I intend to force the Conclave to acknowledge its failure. I intend to force the coalition to withdraw from human space. And I intend to demonstrate that recording a species as extinct does not actually make them extinct if they have prepared adequately. The engagement. The coalition fleet commander, upon receiving confirmation of the Exodus fleet's existence, faced an impossible choice. He could attempt to fight. He had 300 capital ships against humanity's 750,000. The odds were catastrophic. Even accounting for superior coalition firepower, the sheer numerical advantage of the human fleet would result in coalition annihilation. He could attempt to withdraw. But withdrawing while enemy forces outnumbered his fleet by over 2,000 to 1 would represent a crushing military defeat. Or he could attempt to negotiate. The coalition commander chose negotiation. This is Coalition Fleet Commander Vex, he transmitted to Okafor. We are prepared to discuss terms for withdrawal from human space. Terms? Okafor repeated. There are no terms. You will withdraw immediately. You will return all human prisoners. You will provide complete inventories of all human technology you have captured. You will acknowledge in writing that the extinction campaign was an act of aggression against a Conclave member species. And you will pay reparations for all damages inflicted. Vex looked at his strategic display, seeing his forces surrounded by an enemy fleet of overwhelming size. Agreed, he said simply. Coalition forces are withdrawing from human space effective immediately. The galactic response. The rapid coalition withdrawal stunned the galactic community. A fleet of 300 capital ships, one of the largest military forces in the galaxy, had retreated without a single shot being fired. They had accepted terms from a species that had just been officially declared extinct. The Conclave Assembly called for an emergency session. High Warden Orth stood before the assembled species and presented the facts that no one had anticipated. Humanity was not extinct. They possessed a hidden military force of 750,000 warships. The coalition's extinction campaign was therefore a failure. The attack on human space was an act of aggression against a member species. And the Conclave's acceptance of the Extinction Declaration without verification was a failure of our fundamental duty to protect member species. The response from the Assembly was a mix of anger, fear, and reassessment. The Dven Empire, which had remained neutral during the extinction campaign, began calculating what the existence of the Exodus fleet meant for their own security. The Sorioth Collective, which had provided some support to the coalition, suddenly reconsidered their political alignments. Every species in the galaxy was forced to confront a simple and terrifying reality: they had all been wrong about humanity. The reckoning humanity demanded immediate restoration to full member status in the Conclave, with all associated protections and privileges. They demanded formal apology from the coalition. They demanded reparations for the destruction inflicted during the extinction campaign. More than that, they demanded something unprecedented: verification requirements for any future extinction declarations. No species could be declared extinct without independent confirmation from multiple sources. No extinction could be recorded without Conclave observers personally verifying total civilization collapse. The age of casual extinction declarations was over. The Conclave, faced with the reality of 750,000 human warships, agreed to all of humanity's demands. High Warden Orth himself traveled to Earth to meet with Commander Okafor and formally restore humanity's full status in the Conclave. Humanity has taught the galaxy a lesson it desperately needed to learn, Orth said during the formal restoration ceremony. We learned that species you believed to be extinct might have prepared for extinction. We learned that the galaxy does not always operate under the assumptions we make about power and capability. We learned that underestimating a potential adversary, no matter how diminished they appear, can result in catastrophic miscalculation. Okafor listened to the words with an expression that suggested neither satisfaction nor relief. The Conclave declared us extinct without verification, Okafor said quietly. If we had not possessed the Exodus fleet, the declaration would have been permanent. Billions of humans would have been dead, and the galaxy would have recorded them as irrelevant. That is what truly matters. The aftermath, the revelation that humanity possessed 750,000 warships, had profound implications for galactic politics. Every major power suddenly began reconsidering its security assumptions. The Dven Empire began investigating whether they possessed adequate defensive capabilities. The Sorioth Collective began questioning their previous political alignments. Even the Conclave itself was forced to acknowledge that its surveillance systems, which had been believed to be comprehensive, had massive blind spots. More significantly, other species began considering whether they too should develop hidden military forces in remote regions of space. Within a decade, the galaxy had transformed into a collection of powers, each maintaining official military forces while secretly developing backup fleets in hidden regions. The stability of galactic politics, which had been maintained through conclave oversight, was replaced by a much more precarious balance where multiple species possessed hidden capabilities that could dramatically shift the balance of power. The galaxy had become simultaneously more stable, because no species could be certain of overwhelming a potential adversary, and more unstable, because the existence of hidden fleets introduced fundamental uncertainty into all military calculations. The Reflection Commander Okafor, years after the Exodus fleet's emergence, found himself contemplating what the hidden Armada had truly accomplished. Humanity had been saved. The human species would survive. Earth would be rebuilt. Human civilization would continue. But the galaxy had been fundamentally changed. The age of public, transparent military forces was ending. The age of hidden armadas and secret capabilities was beginning. Species that had previously trusted each other's official declarations of military strength now questioned whether those declarations were accurate. Okafor recorded a statement for the historical archive: "We built the Exodus fleet as a defense mechanism. We intended it to preserve the human species if extinction became imminent. What we did not anticipate was that the revelation of the Exodus fleet would trigger a galactic arms race of hidden military forces." He paused. "We taught the galaxy that species cannot be trusted at their word. That official declarations of military capability are meaningless if hidden forces exist. That the only security comes from assuming the worst about every potential adversary." Okafor considered the implications. Perhaps that was inevitable. Perhaps the galaxy was always destined to develop multiple hidden military forces. Perhaps we simply accelerated a process that would have occurred regardless. But I wonder sometimes whether our choice to hide the Exodus fleet, to prepare for extinction in secret, was wise. We survived. But at what cost to galactic stability? The questioning High Warden Orth, in his final years, reflected on humanity's emergence and what it revealed about his own judgment. "I believed I understood the nature of galactic power," Orth recorded. "I believed that military capability was something that could be accurately assessed through surveillance and analysis. I believed that a species as diminished as humanity appeared to be could not possibly maintain a hidden force of 750,000 warships." He paused. "I was wrong. Humanity maintained that force in complete secrecy for 50 years. They did so by developing an organizational discipline and operational security that exceeded anything any other species had achieved. They did so by sacrificing comfort and normalcy for a population of 12 million military personnel who maintained the fleet in hidden space." Orth considered the moral implications. "Humanity was declared extinct based on my authority. Billions died in the extinction campaign. If humanity had not possessed the Exodus fleet, that would have been the end. No resurrection. No recovery. Just extinction, recorded in the Galactic Registry as a footnote to the history of the galaxy." He set down his recording device. "The existence of the Exodus fleet demonstrates a capacity for preparation that exceeds what most species are capable of. It demonstrates a willingness to sacrifice present security for future survival. It demonstrates a kind of strategic patience that puts other species to shame. And it demonstrates that my assessment of galactic power dynamics was fundamentally incomplete." The future implications: the revelation of the Exodus fleet had cascading consequences that extended far beyond the immediate political situation. Scientific academies across the galaxy began studying how humanity had maintained operational security for such a large fleet. Military strategists began developing doctrines for hiding military forces in regions of space that official surveillance classified as empty. Political theorists began questioning whether the transparency of galactic politics had been genuine or merely an illusion maintained by species that lacked the sophistication to hide their true capabilities. The galaxy entered what historians would later call the Age of Hidden Forces, a period where every major species maintained official military forces while secretly developing backup armadas in remote regions. Some species succeeded in maintaining their hidden forces without detection. The Dven Empire successfully concealed a fleet of 400,000 warships for 73 years before it was accidentally discovered. The Sorioth Collective hid military assets so effectively that their backup forces remained unknown even to the Conclave. Other species were discovered maintaining hidden forces and faced political consequences ranging from sanctions to military action. The galaxy became a place where trust was replaced by suspicion, where transparency was replaced by careful deception, where official declarations of military capability were treated with fundamental skepticism. And it had all begun with humanity's revelation that they had not been extinct at all. The unexpected consequence. Years after the Exodus fleet's emergence, an unexpected consequence manifested. Species began preparing for the possibility that the Conclave's oversight systems were fundamentally compromised. If humanity could hide 750,000 warships, then what else might be hidden? What other species might possess capabilities that the Conclave was unaware of? This led to a fundamental questioning of Conclave authority. If the surveillance systems that the Conclave had used to maintain order were unreliable, then how could the Conclave be trusted to make decisions about galactic security? Within 2 decades, the Conclave had been forced to accept a reformation of its governance structure. Independent species could no longer be required to disclose their military capabilities. Hidden fleets were acknowledged as legitimate components of species security strategies. The Conclave's role shifted from enforcer to negotiator. The galactic political order that had been stable for centuries was transformed into something far less predictable and more balanced, where no single power could claim comprehensive knowledge of what other species possessed. And the catalyst for this transformation had been humanity's revelation that 750,000 warships had existed in hiding. The personal reckoning commander Okafor, in his later years, was asked by a young journalist whether the existence of the Exodus fleet had been worth the cost. The cost included the destruction of the surface human civilization. The cost included billions of human deaths. The cost included the sacrifice of 12 million military personnel who had spent their entire lives maintaining a fleet in hidden space. Okafor considered the question carefully. Yes, he said finally. It was worth the cost. Because the alternative was permanent extinction. Because without the Exodus fleet, humanity would no longer exist in the galaxy. The civilization we lost can be rebuilt. The worlds we lost can be recolonized. The people we lost will be remembered. But if humanity had been permanently extinct, all of that would have been lost forever. He paused. The Exodus fleet was not a perfect solution. It was not even a good solution. But it was better than the alternative. The journalist pressed further. Do you believe the revelation of the Exodus fleet was beneficial to the galaxy? Okafor was more hesitant with that answer. No, he said finally. I believe the revelation of the Exodus fleet was detrimental to galactic stability. It triggered an arms race of hidden fleets. It destroyed trust between species. It forced the reformation of the Conclave's authority structure. The galaxy is less stable now than it was before. He looked directly at the journalist. But humanity survives. And sometimes, the survival of your own species is worth more than the stability of the broader galactic community. The epilogue, the Observer's final verdict. High Warden Orth, in his last recorded statement before his death, offered a final assessment of humanity's Exodus fleet and what it meant for galactic civilization. Humanity has taught the galaxy that species cannot be assessed based on what is visible. They have taught that hidden capabilities can exceed official capabilities by orders of magnitude. They have taught that strategic patience and organizational discipline can overcome overwhelming odds. Orth paused, considering his words carefully. But humanity has also taught something darker, that the galaxy is less stable when species must assume hidden forces exist. That uncertainty about true capabilities prevents the kind of stable equilibrium that promotes peace. That the revelation of hidden military forces, while saving a species from extinction, destabilizes the entire galactic order. His final words were recorded for historical preservation. I do not know whether humanity made the right choice in building the Exodus fleet. I do not know whether the revelation of 750,000 warships was beneficial or detrimental to the galaxy as a whole. I know only that humanity survived when extinction was expected. And I know that the survival of humanity came at the cost of the stable, transparent galactic order that had been maintained for centuries. Orth set down his recording device for the final time. The age of transparency in galactic politics is over. The age of hidden forces and mutual suspicion has begun. Whether that represents progress or decline, I leave for future historians to judge.